The 19-year-old woman's hands trembled slightly as she typed out her review in October, sitting in the car minutes after being released from 8 days that felt like 8 years. Her phone finally returned after being confiscated upon admission felt foreign in her grip, like an artifact from a life she'd lived before the psychiatric ward swallowed her whole. The memories were still brutally fresh. The cold, fluorescent lighting that never dimmed, the heavy medication that dragged her into unwanted sleep so deep she couldn't fight her way back to consciousness, the complete isolation from anyone who loved her. No visitors allowed, no phone calls, no connection to the world beyond those locked doors. Just her and the suffocating reality that she was trapped in a place that was supposed to help, but felt more like punishment. The strip search haunted her most. A male staff member had conducted it forcibly, without regard for her dignity, her trauma, or her right to feel safe in her own skin. She'd stood there vulnerable and violated, wondering how this was considered therapeutic care. The humiliation burned through her even now, weeks later, as she carefully chose words to describe what had happened without breaking down completely. She had nothing in that ward to distract her from the screaming inside her own head. No books, no activities that felt remotely human. Just endless hours of drugged sleep punctuated by waking moments where she felt herself fragmenting further. The place that was supposed to help her heal had instead left her feeling more broken, more isolated, more dehumanized than before she'd walked through those doors. Her review was honest, raw, and necessary. She detailed every dehumanizing aspect of her 8-day stay, hoping that her words might prepare someone else for what they were walking into, or perhaps encourage the facility to do better. The moment she finished typing and hit post, she felt a small measure of control return to her life. The power to name what had happened to her, to refuse to pretend it was acceptable. Her mother had a completely different perspective. For reasons the young woman couldn't fathom, her mother thought the psychiatric ward was wonderful. Perhaps she'd only seen the brochures, the professional website, the reassuring words from staff members who knew how to present well to concerned family members. Perhaps she was in denial about how badly her daughter had been treated, unable to reconcile sending her child somewhere that would harm rather than heal her. Months passed. The review sat online, a digital testimony to one person's traumatic experience. Then, randomly, her mother decided to Google the facility. When she found her daughter's review, she didn't respond with concern about what her daughter had endured. She didn't ask questions about the strip search by male staff, the forced over-medication, or the complete isolation that had made everything worse. Instead, she threw a fit. "You need to remove this review," her mother demanded, her voice tight with anger. "Someone might read this and decide not to seek help there. You could be preventing people from getting the care they need." The young woman sat stunned as her mother prioritized the reputation of an institution that had traumatized her daughter over her daughter's right to speak about her own experience. The logic was twisted. She should silence herself, hide her trauma, pretend the dehumanizing treatment never happened, all to protect a facility's public image and potentially send other vulnerable people into the same nightmare she'd endured. Her mother tried to force her to delete it, as if trauma could be erased as easily as a Google review. As if speaking truth was less important than maintaining comfortable fictions about the quality of care in a place that had strip-searched her daughter with male staff and drugged her into oblivion. The young woman found herself facing an impossible choice: protect her mother's delusions and the facility's reputation, or stand firm in her right to share her own story. Every survivor knows this moment, when someone demands your silence for the comfort of others, when your truth becomes inconvenient, when speaking about what happened to you is reframed as somehow harming others rather than protecting them from similar experiences. She thought about all the reviews she'd read before being admitted, the sanitized, positive ones that had given no warning about what actually happened inside those walls. She thought about the next 19-year-old girl who might read her words and at least know to advocate for herself, to demand female staff for searches, to question the medication regimen, to insist on visitors or phone calls. Her mother's anger hung in the air between them like smoke, thick and suffocating. But the young woman's review remained online, a small act of resistance against a system that wanted patients to suffer silently and emerge grateful for the privilege of having been locked away and traumatized. The question wasn't whether her review might discourage someone from seeking help at that particular facility. The question was whether her silence would enable that facility to continue treating vulnerable patients with the same dehumanizing practices that had made her worse instead of better. Should survivors of traumatic psychiatric care be pressured to hide their experiences to protect institutional reputations? Does speaking honestly about medical trauma constitute discouraging people from seeking help? Or does it empower them to advocate for better care? Share your thoughts on where the line is between protecting institutions and protecting patients.